Welcome back to Grit Gym. Welcome back to Grit Gym Live. You are live right now with me. So if you have questions, you come on here and you have questions, or you have comments, or you have things you don't even know how to ask, just write something down in the comment section. Take the chance, and if you don't feel comfortable putting it out there, no big deal. I completely understand that. Most of the people that actually come into Grit Gym are fairly shy, kind of at first. They're a little bit what you would call introverted. So nothing wrong with that. I am actually, like most people would not know this, but I am actually fairly introverted too, so I completely understand. Hit me up in the direct messages. There's a portion somewhere on this page that says something about sending a direct message, something about sending a message. Feel free to pop on there and use that because it's a public forum, so everybody can see it, right? Not everybody likes that. We come on the reason that I do this show is to talk about health. Health is your number one resource in your life. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is the most important resource that you're going to have at any point in any life that you ever have. If you believe in multiple lives or you just believe in this one life, regardless, it's all going to come back to the one life because you only have one moment. That's what is existing right here, right now. So to ask you to be very present in this talk and to try to use it to your benefit as much as you possibly can. So what is health made up of? Health is made up of your what becomes you in the health department. Well, it becomes you to exercise, to challenge your mindset, to improve your nutrition, and to make that a lifestyle, and then also to improve your recovery. So sleep, meditation, relaxation, they're not all the same thing. Time between workouts, time between sets. These are very, very important. Every magical thing that happens that you want out of strength conditioning, everything that you want to get out of exercise, everything that you want to get out of nutrition, and everything that you want to get out of your mindset, all that stuff happens while you're recovering. So nobody has ever gotten stronger in the gym. Nobody's ever lost fat in a gym. Nobody's ever gained muscle in a gym. It all happened during the recovery portions of their life. And regardless of all this, recovery happens later. Regardless of all of this, the thing that we're talking about today is the thing that is stopping you from getting to where you want to go. And what this really is a mindset thing trying to make sense. The reason that you're not where you are where you want to be is because you're trying to make sense. You're attempting to make sense of not being where you want to be. Not having the money you want, the relationships you want, the time you want, and the life you want, and the health that you want, is what I was trying to say there. All comes back to the excuses that you make as a result of an attempt to make sense of why you aren't where you want to be in your life, doing what you want to do, being who you want to be, giving what you want to give, and having what you want to have. Excuses are just an attempt to make sense of not being where you want to be. And for the most part, it doesn't even make sense in your head right now because you're like, what are you talking about? I don't make excuses. We all do. I make excuses. You make excuses. Every one of us makes excuses. And everybody in our surrounding atmosphere is full willing to jump on that bandwagon and justify why that excuse makes sense, that why it is valid. Do you see what I mean? We say, oh, you got to stop making excuses and go out and do it. You just got to go out and do it. And I even write "do it anyway" on that T-shirt that I wore the other day. The T-shirts that we write, and I fully well believe that. Like you're never gonna not, or maybe you're never gonna not be scared. But things are scary. They're hard to overcome. They're hard to do. And that obstacle that is in your way is part of the reason that it's so great to push through that. But making up an excuse for why you don't have what you want, why you can't give what you want, why you can't do what you want, and why you aren't in your life where you want to be, it's because the excuse that you make solidifies and justifies that and gives it credence, gives it validity, and it keeps you from having what you want. When in reality, if you want the experience that you dream of, you have to get rid of any of the voices that are willing to keep you back where you were. To help you with this. Any voice out there that helps you justify the validity of your excuse is a voice that you have to get rid of. These could be friends, family members, and most of all, the most powerful voice is the one that is in your head, the voice that you tell yourself. So think about this. During your meditation, throughout your day, see how often you put in a thought in your head that doesn't serve your goals, that doesn't serve your goals. You'll do it. Your family will help you with this. Your friends will help you with this, but you will do it all on your own. I do this all the time. It's like I have a little bit of a habit of being late. So I always try to show up 30 minutes early because I know that in my head, being 30 minutes, because I tend to be about 15 minutes late to things. Things that don't really matter to me, that aren't really like crucial, I'll show up 15 minutes late. No big deal. So if I'm 30 minutes early, in my head, if I have to be there 30 minutes before that, then I'll show up 15 minutes early, right? So I segmented it back. So, but if I make that excuse, and I let other people come into my mind and join me in that, then Caitlin says, I have all my clocks on a fake time. I have done that before too. It works pretty well until they're all on different times, and then it really gets to you. But the interesting thing is that what I'll notice is when I'm starting to get close to that 30-minute that I got to bust out the door, well, I'll start making up excuses for why I was late in my head. And all of us do this. No one, like I'm not the only person that does it. I guarantee you. I've talked with enough people that do this kind of stuff, and I've talked with enough people that or that counsel people through this through mindset stuff, that a winner tends to think of things of how they're going to win. A loser tends to think of all the things that are going to go wrong, and the non-winner tends to kind of go right in between. They're like, they think of things that are not going to get them to win, but they're not necessarily going to get them, or they're not going to get them to win, but they're not going to get them to lose. So the loser comes up with an excuse for why they were late, or the non-winner comes up for an excuse for why they were late, until they challenge that. And they start putting different ideas in their mind. They put different ideas in their mind. This takes a ton of courage. It takes a ton of guts to do this. And you have to just continually be aware of the thoughts that are going through your mind, what you're saying to yourself and how that's playing out, because there's hundreds and hundreds of thoughts that are going through your head on a minute, maybe even by second, that we don't even recognize. For instance, when you sit down in a chair, do you question, is this chair going to hold me? Is this chair or is that object something that I'm supposed to sit on? No, you just accept it in your brain as something that you can sit on. You conditioned your mind to be able to do this. You don't have to think to be able to do that thing. You're processing tons and tons and tons of information as we go. Just me right now, words are containers. The words that I'm using and placing them in order, your mind already knows how to do that. It doesn't have to think about it. You're doing all of these processes without thinking about it. You're just doing it. So when it comes to excuses, you're just doing it, not even thinking about it. It's just accepted as valid that that's an excuse and that's a valid excuse. But in reality, that is not a valid excuse. It's bullshit that you are creating to accept where you are. And if in this moment you are not where you want to be, if you don't have the body that you want, you don't have the health that you want, you don't have the money that you want, you don't have the whatever it is, you don't have the health, wealth, relationships, time, you don't have the relationships that you want, you don't have command over the time the way that you want to have command over your time, that something is going on and you got to change it. And there's probably an excuse being made. But Caitlin says, it's an addiction. We do it because we would rather think about the lateness than be present in our head. Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I would, like, for instance, how do you define addiction? I think addiction is a really interesting word. And if words are containers, then we've got to get clear with that word, right? So for me, the difference between an addiction and a habit don't really seem like they're that different. An addiction and a habit don't, like what's the difference? You have this habitual thing where you come home and you drink a whole bottle of wine. You have an addiction that you're out the door on your smoke break at 10 a.m. and at 2 p.m. and at 7 p.m. you're going to go have a cigarette. Like that's your habit, but we call it an addiction when it's this chemical-based thing. Is there a huge difference between a habit and an addiction? I don't know. Not an expert on the subject, but I think that there's something there. And if we can break a habit and we can break an addiction, then I think we really need to stop looking at this like the two words as if they're impossible. There's this mindset thing around this thing. It's like, oh, I'm addicted, so I wasn't responsible for the things that I did. Well, if you're an alcoholic and you're addicted to alcohol, it's still your responsibility for what you did when you had that alcohol. And if you think different, then then you are not putting the responsibility on yourself to have the life that you want to have. You will put you'll put the responsibility on everybody else. It's like the person who gets depressed when it rains. Why would you let the weather dictate your mood? Why would you let anybody, why would you let anybody in your family, anybody in your atmosphere, why would you let it dictate your mood? It's your responsibility. Remember, if it is to be, it is up to me. Okay, so me and my life, you and yours. And the more responsibility you take for anything, the better off everything is going to get, in my opinion. In my humble little opinion. And I'm just one guy, but I have a lot of different perspectives on this. And when I get into discussions, I really like to hear other people's perspective. And then a lot of times I like to play devil's advocate just to hear what they're going to say. But I do find that in today's world, playing devil's advocate really needs to be up front. I like playing the devil's advocate. If you're in a discussion with me, I like to put things out there to hear what you're going to have to say. And I don't expect you to get offended by them, because I want to hear what you have to say. It's not a challenge. I want to hear what you have to say. Caitlin says, it's more than numbing. I mean, we use it like we may use other things we are addicted to. Yeah. Wait, did I read that right? Yes, you are. It's more than numbing. We use it like we may use other things we are addicted to. I think I might be missing you there. But my head's spinning a little bit because I'm doing a presentation and I'm trying to read and I'm trying to do a presentation. Anyway, what are excuses? What are some of the excuses that you guys have used in the past? If you can, this is one of the things this is a huge tool that I've used in my life to really get clear on what you're doing right now, what you might be missing out on right now. One of the things that I'll do is I'll think back to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It kind of depends on how old you are, but think back to 10 years ago. Where were you 10 years ago? Where were you 15 years ago? And analyze that, because this removes you, because now you can do the whole, well, if I would have known then what I know now. But the thing is, right now, you're probably still doing the same things that you were back then. It's just a different context. Now you have kids, you have, maybe you're like me and you have a business. You're trying to do new things. You're trying to explore. You have new ideas. You have new perspectives, but you're still using the same software, the same hardware that you did when you were 16, 17, 25. So whatever you did back then and the mistakes that you can label back then, well, you can look at yourself now and be like, well, you might not be using the excuse you made back then, might not be on the same subject, but it's used in the same conceptual way for a different thing that you're going for. Maybe back then you were maybe when you were 19 years old, you were trying to get all A's in all of your college classes. Well, now you're trying to do a different thing, but the excuse that you would have used back then will be pretty much the same excuse that you're using right now. So that's one of the things that I've done in the past, is to uncover some of the excuses that I make, and you can do the same thing, because we're not aware. We just accept these things about, well, I couldn't do it because, I couldn't do it because, I couldn't do it because this, I couldn't do it because that. I can't tell you how many times that I made the excuse that of producing content like this. I have wanted to do this for probably 10 years. Do what we're doing right now. Me come on and give you perspectives on strength and conditioning, on nutrition, on mindset, I didn't really know much about mindset back then, and on recovery. I knew quite a bit about those other three subjects, and now I'm giving you a little bit of the mindset stuff after spending years and years with one of the top sports psych coaches in the world. You learn a few things, right? And you get challenged by a few things, because people that are at that top level have really challenged a lot of their demons, and they don't mind asking you to challenge yours too, which I'm asking you to do right now. Because excuses will ruin everything you're going for. Everything that you're going for, excuses will ruin all of them, because we give them so much power without even knowing it. Without even knowing it, we we did this thing where we attempted to make sense of why we're not where we are with an excuse, and we just accepted it as valid, and we never really went on. When in reality, this one thing is what kept us from everything that we wanted to have. And if we could have challenged that one thing and we could have pushed forward to everything else that we wanted, maybe we could have had that too. So what are some of the excuses that you guys, where were you 10 years ago? Where were you 10 years ago? When I did this, I was training somebody that was very into law of attraction type stuff. And they asked me, well, we were talking about, they ran a business too, and they were talking about some of the stuff that they've done in the past. And they're like, why don't you ask your 10-year self? And I was like, my 10-year self, I don't know what that is. Yourself in 10 years, why don't you ask them? Now, I don't believe that I was actually able to transcend time and go talk to myself 10 years from now. I think this is about getting out of your own way. So I didn't think this at the time, but I was like, oh, okay. I just finished a course of meditation that was very good, and it's very good for me especially. And so I was like, I'll do that. The next time that I meditate, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to ask my 10-year self what he would do if he could come back to now, with what I will know in 10 years. So I'm sitting there, and I go to my meditation, and I kind of go through my checklist. I relax my forehead, relax my shoulders, relax my stomach, relax my legs, relax my arms. And I kind of get to that point where I'm kind of in that trance. And I ask my 10-year self, what would you do? And to my surprise, it was kind of like someone was there. I know someone wasn't there. It was just me, but it was kind of weird. And I asked him, and he goes, well, what would you have done 10 years ago? And I was like, no, dude, I'm asking you. What would you do if you could come back to where I am? What would you do where I am now, knowing what you know in 10 years from now? And he goes, yeah, what would you have done 10 years ago? And I was like, well, 10 years ago, and at the time, I think I was 27 years old. I was 17 years old. Nothing in the world mattered more than playing sports, and then school, and then a couple other things maybe. But basically, it was school and sports. I didn't really have much of a social life. So it was all school and sports when I was 17 years old. And he's like, okay, what would you have done back then? And I was like, dude, I'm asking you what you would have done. Anyway, so I get out of the meditation. I sit back. And all of a sudden, bam, I started writing down. I was like, I'll go for this. I wrote down everything on a piece of paper. I took a piece of paper out and I wrote down everything that I would have done different 10 years beforehand. So when I was 17, I was like, I was a little bit, I think that the mental side of sports is something I didn't really explore while I was in my career. And I really wish I would have. I think it would have made a huge difference. I think it would have made a huge difference for any athlete. So I wrote that down. I would have gotten a sports psych coach. One of my best friends in high school, he had a sports psych coach. Anyway, so I wrote that down. I would have invested in a strength coach. I would have been more diligent with my time. I would have been more disciplined with my nutrition. I would have, I would have eaten more. I would have done X, Y, Z. So I listed out this entire page, and I was like kind of exhausted my list of things that I would have done different, knowing what I know now as a 27-year-old looking back to when I was 17. The next day, I go back into the meditation, go through my checklist, do my thing, get in kind of like that trance-like state, right? And I'm back with it. And so I asked my 10-year self again. I'm like, hey, what would you do if you could come back to now? And and it was kind of weird because it was like, I think that your mind is pretty powerful and it can take you to some really crazy places. I don't think it took me to whatever year that would be, but I think that it did let me get out of my own way, like I said before. But he kind of gestures at the list that was on the desk in front of me, and he goes, why don't you do that? And I was like, oh my God. It just all hit me like a ton of bricks. All of a sudden, it was so clear that all the things, all the mistakes, all the excuses, all the everything, all the things that I would have done when I was 17, I was still making the same mistakes when I was 27. I was still doing the same things. I still was having the same problems. I was still having the same obstacles. They were all there. Conceptually, they were a little different. Instead of sports, it was business. Instead of being a sportsaholic, like an athlete, trying to be the best athlete possible, now I was trying to help people and run a business that could help more and more and more and more people. And I wasn't getting it done. Something was going wrong. Well, I wasn't getting the exposure that I wanted as an athlete either. And I didn't have so same thing. I didn't have someone to help me map my mind. Do you think a mindset coach could have a difference in your ability to go where you want to go? Yeah, of course. Do you think having a strength coach when you're a strength coach matters? At this point, I did actually have somebody writing my programs for me. But what about if you're in business, having a business coach? Do you think that matters? Do you think that being more disciplined with your time would matter? Like all of these things that I had written down were the exact same things that I was not doing in my life at that time. And I was like, I got to put this on me. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was this amazing, amazing experience. And I started doing that. So I started working with a sports psych coach. I started working with a business coach. I've had multiple business coaches since then. I've had multiple wealth coaches, relationship coaches, nutrition coaches, exercise coaches. Like anybody who is an expert in their field, I went and talked to them, and I still do. Only now we actually make it content for you guys because we do the interviews, right? But this was me going and paying for their information, which is a little different than just doing an interview. But that was my experience. I think that that's something that can be very profound for you guys to try. It's a way to get out of your own way so that you can help yourself. But sell yourself on that you're talking to your 10-year self. You're talking to yourself 10 years from now. So what would 42-year-old Adam come back and tell 32-year-old Adam now? What would 27-year-old Adam tell 17-year-old Adam? They're probably extremely similar. So it's something worth trying, but don't sit around and succumb to your excuses. Everybody's already doing that. You want to have this great, incredible life. Well, part of what great and incredible are based on is normal. These aren't normal, and these are normal. Excuses are for the normal. You want to stay down there where all the competition is and you want to fight for who has the worst life, go for it. But I guarantee it's not going to be the one that you want. And you can make excuses to try to sell yourself and attempt to make sense of why that is valid, but it's not. You have this white hot burning energy inside of you that you are not acknowledging. You have this love and passion and desire to live your life. And for me, I have this deep belief in people that even the worst of us, the people like Hitler, this guy that did the thing in Las Vegas, the worst people, the people that have done horrendous acts, I think that deep down, they have this something is very great in them. And they have this very intrinsic desire to help people, and they want to be there for people. And then they have just layer upon layer upon layer of bullshit and nonsense and excuses and pain and agony and turmoil layered on top of that beautiful person that is underneath. And then that is what comes out as the ultimate thing that makes them do the thing that was not so great. So start uncovering your bullshit, start uncovering your nonsense, and I really believe that all of us will grow from that. But anyway, don't be your own perpetrator of your own victimization. That's what excuses are do. They're just an attempt to make sense of not being where you want to be, and everyone's willing to help you justify that they're valid. They're not valid. In reality, you want the experience that you want, or you want to experience the life that you dream of. You have to get rid of any voice that is willing to agree with you on that validity, that those excuses are valid. You got to get rid of them. That includes your own voice, it includes your family's voices, it includes your friends' voices. That's what I got for you today. Little mindset thing, 1 o'clock. We're cutting this one off. I hope you guys got something out of this. I really appreciate you guys' feedback. If you have any questions, you don't feel comfortable commenting in the comments section, just shoot me a message. And I really like having discussions about this kind of stuff with people. And then please remember, slap the share button, slap the like button. The more people that share this, and the more people that like this, and the more people that comment on this, the more Facebook will push this out to more people. So if you think this is a good message, please like, share, and comment. But thanks for being here, guys. I really appreciate it.